Hello and welcome to Salford Now. I'm David Patcher. First today, there's been an angry reaction to the news that Salford, along with the rest of Greater Manchester, is to stay in the strictest coronavirus restrictions. Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham says the North is being held to different rules than London. Our reporter Shona Burns has been following the story and is live in the Salford Now newsroom. So Shona, what happened today?
Earlier on, we saw Matt Hancock giving an update of what's come out of the latest review of the COVID-19 tier restrictions. Salford and Greater Manchester will remain in Tier 3, while some parts of the South East will be moving up to the tightest restrictions. Here's what the Health Secretary had to say.
I know that other areas are so eager to move down tiers, and the best thing we can all do is act with responsibility to get the virus under control.
So that means that pubs and restaurants in Salford will stay closed for the foreseeable, but are still allowed to provide takeaway services. Entertainment venues like cinemas, bingo halls and theatres will also stay shut. Non-essential shops will stay open to the public, though people are being advised to avoid busier shopping hours.
Greater Manchester and Salford to this news.
Well, there's been an angry reaction from the great and the good of Salford. Manchester United legend Gary Neville tweeted, "Manchester is lower than many Tier 2 areas than 2 weeks ago. Today, the government ignored their own criteria." Manchester City Council leader Richard Lee said that the numbers in the region are better than in Liverpool, which is, of course, in Tier 2, and London. And Andy Burnham said when cases rise in the North goes under restrictions, but when cases rise in London and the South East, everyone stays under restrictions, along with the latest figures from Greater Manchester. We conducted a Salford Now poll and found that 55% of people think that Salford should stay in the highest tier, and that means, of course, that 45% think that Greater Manchester should have moved down to Tier 2. Unfortunately, for those people today, it's been a disappointing announcement from the government.
Thank you very much, Shona. We'll have to see how that progresses. Now, some good news on the coronavirus front. A new vaccine centre has opened in Salford. The Clarendon Leisure Centre on Liverpool Street opens its doors as the first vaccine centre in the city. Earlier, I spoke to Dr. Athar Aziz, a lecturer in biomedicine from the University of Salford. I started by asking him what the new vaccine centre would mean for our community.
Well, you can see what the impact COVID-19 had on community. So vaccine should have an opposite effect. So it should actually bring back the community to the life it used to have before. In theory, if all of us get a vaccination, we'll have our normal life back. So that's the importance in a nutshell. In terms of its financial and its impact on NHS, it will also be huge because in fact we may still see a very, very tiny minute number of people still needing some hospital treatment, but in fact we will actually be saving like 99.9% of individuals.
The people who are hesitant to get the vaccine, is that an accurate fear to have? What do you think?
Look, we have vaccines for other things as well. We have these vaccines available for, last, if not 100 years, for 50 years now. So there have been some, and I have to say, a small number of people who are always hesitant to take that vaccines for one reason or another. In principle, if we can vaccinate, let's say about 75 to 90% of our population, we can bring down this R number to a level that will not see this in news, so to speak. Their fears are not justified. There are, simply speaking, they should believe the scientist who has done a work. If I have spent my life work on developing a vaccine, I would not develop a vaccine which is likely to kill someone. So this will not be fair on those people who are doing this.
And so the Pfizer vaccine in particular has very specific storage requirements. So do you anticipate that being a problem?
Yes, it can be a problem. Well, in fact, this storage issue is for long term, not for short term. Just to be very clear, this minus 80-degree storage temperature is for long-term storage. When they produce it, They know that it needs to be transported for a 1 month or 3 months period. Then they need to store it at -80. For a short period of time, let's say for a week, 5 days or week, it can still be stored at fridge temperature, so between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. So it can be a problem, especially for transport.
And final question. So obviously this Christmas is not going to be normal, but with the vaccine coming this year, are we supposed to look forward to a normal Christmas this time next year?
Well, I'm hoping so, very much hoping so. Uh, it all depends like how quickly we can vaccinate masses. As I said, we can look forward to have a normal life if at least 75-80% of individuals are vaccinated. So if we are able to do that, and let's hope for the best, there are more than one vaccine which is available to vaccinate individuals. For example, Oxford vaccine is much cheaper, much easier to transport. Uh, it seems to have a similar effect. If we can use that vaccine, I'm pretty sure that by this time next year, it should be more or less normal.
Now, that was Dr. Aziz from the University of Salford. Thank you very much. And lastly, a local playground is being revamped after receiving the last chunk of funds they needed. The Friends of Green Grosvenor Park in Lower Broughton has received the last £3,000 needed for their £67,000 project. The group hope to have the playground refurbished by next spring. Natasha Burish has more.
With the cuts to the council over the last 10 years, it needs people like us and volunteers to really kind of chip in and try and help out, because without us and without funding externally, the council just doesn't have the money to do things like this.
That was Lee from the Friends of Green Grosvenor Park. Last week, they received £67,000 for a new playground. The project should be concluded in February 2021.
Just prior to COVID, actually, back in Jan-Feb time, applied for a grant with Veolia, with a waste management company. And so we were successful with that around about the summertime, and that goes about 2/3 of the way that we needed, because the total project's about 67,000, so it's quite a big project, putting new things on here. So we got that funding confirmed around about the summer, and then we've just been trying to get the last bit of funding, and I got an email last Thursday to get the last 3k in. So.
And is this funding another sign of Salford becoming a green city? 60% of Salford is made of green. This includes 5 local nature reserves. Peel Park is 174 years old, one of the oldest parks in Britain. RHS Bridgewater covers 154 acres, becoming Europe's largest gardening project. Our city has 20 public parks, many maintained and protected by community groups, such as Friends of Green Grosvenor Park or Blue Hill Mansion Association.
Particularly through the COVID pandemic, outdoors and parks have been really important, because you can't go around to your friend's house, you can't go meet people in a cafe or a pub. The outdoor space is where most people will be meeting other families. So, and you're looking at the park here, we've only got 2-3 little things here, and after school it's absolutely packed, particularly through the summer. So it was really a case that how important this park is. We needed to do something and improve it whenever we can do, really.
And the kids just absolutely love coming here at the end of the day, and you could just see really there's not really enough equipment for all those kids, and there just isn't the variety. What's your favourite thing on the park, James?
I know.
The swings?
Yes, everything.
And that's all we have time for today. But don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Salford Now for more updates. Goodbye.